everyone, and welcome back to HEC Career Hub. It's really good to have you here for the part 2 of our ISO 45001 series. As you know, in part 1, we have covered the big picture, what ISO 45001 is, why it exists, and how the plan do check act cycle works. If you have not watched part 1 yet, I would encourage you to go back and start from there because it will make everything in this video much clearer. In part 2, today we are going to go deeper. We are going to look at class 4, 5 and 6, which covers context, leadership and planning in ISO 45001. These three clauses are the foundation of entire safety management system. Without them, everything else falls apart. So let's take our time and understand them properly, one step at a time. Let's start with clause 4, which is about the context of the organization. Now, before you can build any kind of management system, you first need to understand the organization you are building it for. And that is exactly what class 4 asks you to do. It asks three important questions. The first question is, what is your context? Think of it this way. Your organization does not exist in a bubble. It exists in a world, an industry, a country, a community, an economy. The laws that apply to you, the culture of your organization, the history you carry, the pressure you face, all of these things are part of your context. You need to identify the issues, both inside and outside your organization, and that can affect your ability to manage safety properly. Okay. The second question is, who are your interested parties? These are the people and organization who care about what you do or who are affected by it. Your workers are the most important group, but there are others too. Your management, your contractors, the government regulators, your clients, your local community. You need to understand what each these groups needs and expect from your safety system. The third question is, what is your scope? This means you need to decide the boundaries of your safety management system. Which parts of the organization does it cover? Which sites, which activities, which workers? And this must be honest. You cannot leave out parts of your organization just because they are difficult to manage. Now let us spend a little more time on question of internal and external issue, because this is something that trips people up. Okay, on one side you have external issues. These are things happening in the world around your organization that you need to be aware of. Okay, for example, the laws and regulation in your country, industry standards and code of practice that apply to your sector, economic conditions that might affect how much budget you have for safety, new technologies that are changing how work is done, social expectation around how organization should treat their worker, and the safety requirement of your clients and customers. On the other hand, you have internal issues. These are things happening inside your own organization. For example, the culture of your organization and the style of your management, the current skills and competency of your workers, the process and procedures you already have in place, the type of equipment and machinery your worker use, how your worker feel about safety, Do they take it seriously or do they see it as a box taking exercise? And the history of past incident and near miss in your organization, these fall in internal issues. Both of these, the external world and the internal world, shape that your safety management system, and it decide how your safety management system needs to look like. And here is something very important to remember. These issues do not stay the same forever. The world changes, your organization changes. So your assessment of these issues must be keep up to date. It is not something you do once and then forget about. Now we move to class 5, and this one is very close to my heart because in my experience this is the class that separate organizations that truly succeed in safety from those that just go through the motions. Class 5 is about leadership and worker participation. Let us start with leadership. The standard is very clear about this. The most senior people in the organization, the director, the chief executive, the top management team, they cannot simply hand safety over to the safety department and wash their hands of it. They are personally responsible and accountable. What does that mean in practice? It means they must take genuine accountability for the health and safety of every worker. If something goes wrong, they cannot point at someone else. It means they must establish and sign the occupational health and safety policy, a real meaningful commitment, not just a piece of paper. It means they must make sure that the resources needed for the safety system, the time, the money, the people, the equipment are actually made available, not promised, but actually provided to them. And it means they must create an environment where workers feel completely safe to speak up. If a worker sees a hazard and is afraid to report it because they fear punishment or dismissal, then the leadership has failed completely. The standard ISO 45001 says clearly worker must be protected when they raise concerns. Now let us talk about worker participation. This is equally important. The standards make a very clear distinction between consultation and participation. And I want you to understand the difference, okay? Consultation means that workers are asked for their views and opinions before decisions are made, not after. Their input is considered before the organization acts. Participation means something even stronger. It means workers are actively involved in making the decision themselves, particularly the workers who are actually doing the work on the ground. The standard requires that non-managerial workers are involved in things like identifying hazard, assessing risk, deciding on controls, and planning training programs. These are not things that manager can decide alone and then announce. And if there are barriers stopping workers from participation, like language differences, lack of time, fear of speaking up, the organization must actively work to remove those barriers. That is a requirement, okay, not a suggestion. This should be implemented to be considered as ISO compliant, okay. Organization must implement them. Now, let us now look more closely at something that comes out of class 5, the occupational health and safety policy. I want to start by saying something that might surprise you, okay? The occupational health and safety policy is one of the most misunderstood document in the entire safety world. In so many organizations, it is treated as a piece of paper that get printed, framed, and forgotten. But that is not what ISO 45001 intends it to be at all. The Occupational Health and Safety Policy is a genuine public declaration from the most senior person in the organization. It is a written commitment that say, here is what we stand for, here is how we will behave, and here is what we promise to our workers. ISO 45001 is very specific about what the policy must include. I am saying it again, it's not optional. These are requirements, okay? These must be implemented, shall be implemented. There are six things that every occupational health and safety policy must contain. Number one thing, a commitment to provide safe and healthy working condition for all workers. This is the most fundamental promise. Number two is a framework for setting and reviewing occupational health and safety objectives. The policy is not just a statement of values, it creates the structure within which real goals are set. And it's in the objective part, okay? Number three is a commitment to fulfill all legal requirements, not just the one that are necessary or convenient. All of them must be fulfilled, okay? Number four is a commitment to eliminate hazard and reduce risk as far as reasonably possible. That is also causes LR principle. The word eliminate is important here, okay? The starting point is always, can we remove this hazard entirely, completely? If not, then how much can we reduce the risk, okay? Number five is a commitment to continuous improvement of the safety management system, not just maintaining the status quo, always improving, as mentioned in the PDCA cycle. Okay. Number six is a commitment to genuine consultation and participation of worker. This comes back to what we talked about in the leadership slide. Worker are not passenger in your safety system; they are actively participant. Okay. And finally, the policy must be communicated to everyone in the organization. It must be available to the interested parties if they ask for it, and it must be keep relevant and up to date as the organization changes. Now we come to class 6, which is about planning. If class 4 is about understanding where you are and class 5 is about who leads the way, then class 6 is about making a plan for how you are going to make your workplace safer. And the planning in ISO 45001 has four main components. The first one is in class 6.1 is hazard identification. A hazard is anything which has the potential to cause harm, and the standard says you must have a process that continuously identifying hazards. Okay, not just once a year, once in a month, but continuously identifying hazard all the time, including both the routine day-to-day work and the non-routine activities that happen less often. Okay. The second one is risk assessment. Once you have identified a hazard, you need to assess the risk it creates. A risk is the combination of how likely it is that something harmful will happen and how serious the consequences would be if it did. This assessment helps you decide where to focus your efforts and resources. The third one is legal requirements. You must identify all the laws, regulation, and other requirements that apply to your organization. You need to understand them, you need to comply with them, and you need to keep your understanding up to date as the changes happen over time. Okay. And the fourth one is in class 6.2 is occupational health and safety objectives. Based on your understanding of your risk and opportunities, you set clear safety goals for your organization. These goals need to be practical and measurable, and they need to be supported by a proper plan for how they will be achieved. Okay. Also, smart, we say smart, specific, measurable, okay, achievable. Um, all four of these work together. Okay, you cannot have good objective if you do not understand your hazards. You cannot manage your hazards if you do not understand your context. Everything is connected. Okay. Let us go a bit deeper into hazard identification, because this is something that every health and safety professional needs to do well. The first thing to understand is that the hazard identification is not a one-off task. Okay, you do not identify all your hazard once, write them in a register, and then move on. Hazard changes. Network new work activities introduces new hazards, equipment ages, process evolve. Your hazard identification process must be ongoing for that, and it must be proactive. The standard asks you to, to think about hazard across a wide range of categories. The first category is physical and environmental hazards. These include like machinery and equipment that can cause injury, noise and vibration, extreme temperature, and the risk of slip, trip and falls. These are probably the most familiar category for most people. The second category is chemical and biological hazard. These include hazardous substances like cleaning chemicals or industrial solvent, dust and fumes that can damage the lung, biological agents like bacteria or viruses, and radiations of various kinds. The third category is human and psychological, psycho social hazard. Okay, this is where many organizations still have a long way to go. Excessive workload and work pace, bullying and harassment, lone working, fatigue and stress. These are real hazards that cause real harm to real people. And ISO 45001 requires you to take them just as seriously as a broken machine guard. The fourth category is organization and process hazard. These include situations where safety procedures are not being followed, poor communication between the team, the activities of a contractor working on your side, and potential emergency situation. And I want to leave you with one very important reminder on this slide. Your hazard identification must cover all types of work, the routine tasks that happen every day and the non-routine tasks that happen occasionally. It must also include contractor activities, emergency situations, and workers who are operating away from your main site. Now that we understand how to identify hazard, the next step is to assess the risk each hazard creates and then decide how to control it. Let us start with the risk assessment. A risk is made up of two things. First, likelihood. How likely is it this hazard will actually cause harm to someone? Second is severity. If harm does not occur, how if harm does occur. Okay, severity is about if harm does occur, how serious would be it would be. What will be its consequences? Would it be a minor cut that heals in a day, or would it be a life changing injury or worse? Okay, so when you combine the likelihood and the severity together, you get a picture of how significant the risk is. A hazard that is very likely to cause harm and where the consequence would be very serious need to be addressed urgently. A hazard that is unlikely to cause harm and where the consequence would be minor, can be lower on your list. Okay, this process of assessment helps you prioritize your resources and your energy. You cannot do everything at once. Risk assessment tells you from where to start. Once you have assessed the risk, then now you have to decide how to control it. Okay, and ISO 45001 gives you a very clear tool for this, which is the hierarchy of control. We have already a video on this. Please go to our channel, and from there you can also see the hierarchy of control video. Now the hierarchy of control works like a ladder. You always start at the top and work your way down. Okay, the control at the top are the most effective. The control at the bottom, which is like PPE, the least feasible one, the least opted one, PPE. These control at the bottom are the least effective one. Okay, um, at the very top is elimination. This means removing the hazard completely. If you can get rid of it entirely, that is always the best solution, which is elimination. The second level is substitution. If you cannot eliminate the hazard, you can replace it with something less dangerous. Like, for example, replacing a hazardous chemical with a safer alternative. Okay. The third level is engineering control. This means using physical solution to protect people like machine guard, ventilation system, etc. The fourth level is administrative control. This means changing the way work is done through safer procedure, proper training, job rotation to reduce exposure or permit to work system. Okay. In the fifth level, at the very bottom, is mentioned is personal protective equipment (PPEs). Things like helmet, gloves, hearing protection, safety goggles, etc. PPP is the last resort, okay, not the first solution. It protects the worker if everything fails, else in the hierarchy fails, but it does not remove the hazard, okay. It must be remembered. PPP does not remove the hazard entirely. The golden rule is the higher up the hierarchy you can act, the more effective and lasting your control will be. Okay, the final part of class 6 that I want to talk about today is occupational health and safety objectives. You know what is objective? An objective is a goal. It is specific, measurable target that your organization set to improve or maintain its safety performance. Think of this occupational health and safety policy as the direction. It tells you where you want to go, and the objectives are the milestone along the way. Okay, they tell you how you will know that you are moving in the right direction. Objectives will let you know that. For an objective to be useful, it must be it must meet certain requirement, like it must be consistent with what your occupational health and safety policy says. There is no point setting an objective that contradict your own commitment. It must be measurable, or at least capable of being elevated in some way. You need to be able to look at the objectives at the end of the year and answer honestly, did we achieve it, or did we not? So also it must be based on the result of your risk assessment. Your objective should address your biggest and most significant risk. Okay, they should not be chosen because they are easy, but they should be based on realistic data, is per your risk assessment. Okay, it must be also monitored regularly, not just checked at the end of the year, but it should be reviewed throughout the year so that you can correct where needed. Okay, it must be communicated to the people who are responsible for achieving it, and it must be updated when your circumstances change. For every objective you set, you also need a proper plan. The plan must answer 5 questions. What will be done? Who is responsible for doing it? What resources, money, time, training, equipment will be needed? When will it be completed? And how will you measure whether it has been successful? This level of planning turns good intention into real action. And that brings us to the end of part 2. Let us make a moment to look back at what we have covered together today. We started with class 4 context. We learned that before you build a safety system, you need to deeply understand your organization. You need to know the external world it operates in and the internal world inside it. You need to know who your interested parties are, and you need to define the boundaries of your system. We then look at the class 5 leadership. We talk about the personal accountability of top management, the need for a genuine occupational health and safety policy with 6 clear commitments, and the critical importance of genuinely involving worker in the safety system, not just informing them, but actually consulting them and allowing them to participate. We then moved to into class 6, which is planning. We covered hazard identification across 4 types of hazards, the process of risk assessment using likelihood and severity, and the hierarchy of control, the 5 level approach that guides you toward the most effective way to manage the risk you find. And finally, we look at the occupational health and safety objectives, the specific goals that turn your safety policy from words into action. Uh, in part 3, we are going to continue our journey through the standard. We will be looking at class 7 and 8, which covers support, operation, and emergency preparedness. This is where we talked about training and competence, communication, day-to-day operation control, managing contracts, contractors safely, and preparing your organization to respond when an emergency happens. I genuinely hope that today we have clear, useful, and easy to follow instructions. If there is anything you would like me to explain differently or go back over, please leave me comment. I read everyone. Okay, and if you have not subscribed yet, please do so now, so that you do not miss part 3, and also to support us. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself and take care of the people around you. I will see you in the next one.